proceed to the last panel discussion today, also focusing on AI and deep learning. Let me first introduce our moderator, Dr. Winston Xu. He graduated from Columbia University with PhD, and he's now the professor in Department of Computer Science and Information Engineering in National Taiwan University. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our moderator, Dr. Winston Xu. And now our panelist, Dr. Eric, our speaker. And Dr. Yurong Chen. Last but not least, Jeffrey. Welcome to the stage. All right, Doctor, now it's your time.
Thank you. Thank you. I think thanks for the speakers for the very wonderful, exciting talks. It's really my pleasure to be here and to witness the right timing of AI. I believe AI is now. Do you believe it? Do you believe it? Raise your hands. You think AI is now? Yes, yes, AI is now. So I think today is, if you believe AI is now, that I think today we will continue for more deeper discussions that if you want to embrace AI for your products, how you proceed for that. So let me ask one question first. Who are planning to use AI for your current or coming products? Please raise your hands. Who are planning to use AI? Okay. Okay, put it down. Who has problems? You think you don't know how to use AI. You want to use it, but you don't know how to use it. Please raise your hands. So we are here to help you. So today, I think you already hear lots of discussions, the strengths, the powerful, the superhuman capabilities of AIs in image, video, speech, text, etc. But I want to work on that. How could I proceed for that? That's what I heard the most from lots of industry customers. So today we will discuss many issues, how we evaluate if our company is good for AIs, and what kind of technology should I work in, what kind of vertical should I focus on, and what kind of computing resource, human resource, and what kind of culture change for AI company. So we will have the questions one by one for our very outstanding, very excellent speakers here. If we have time, I think we will collect some questions from the audience here. So please prepare for your question in advance. So the first question I want to have for the speakers here. So from your talk, you already shown lots of exciting technical components such as image recognition, agitation, speech translations, etc. So from the point of view for our industry friends, if they want to adopt AI technology, AI component for their coming or future products, please, analysts share with them what kind of component, technology components are already ready to use, what are still a long way to go. So just try to help them avoid the traps. Okay, let's start from Eric.
Okay, thanks for the question. So as I said in the talk, I think IoT is definitely a trend that's coming. And with IoT, you have many sensors that you can use for vision, for audio, for all kind of different sort of technologies. So I believe that IoT and the intelligent cloud is the best combination. So you can actually create a lot of different scenarios where essentially these sensors are doing useful things in different industries or in different consumer scenarios, right? Ranging from education, so there are a lot of people working on chatbots with children. So you can imagine a chatbot that would actually talk to the child and do English pronunciation, grading, and do language learning and do things like that. To do industry, in industry, for example, industrial robot, right? That's actually helping to do surveillance of a room to see whether people have fallen down or things like that. I mean, one example is that we're actually working with a hospital in Brazil so that you can actually use the camera on the common areas to see whether people have fallen accidentally. Or in fact, you can actually even assess to see whether people are starting to shake and they might have Parkinson's disease. So that's one example where actually a very specific scenario inside the hospital or inside a nursing home, you can actually use the video to actually do a lot of good, right? Because as we are all getting older and it's an aging society worldwide, we need more and more help in helping us to live better independently, and AI can help a lot. And there are certainly many, many areas just in that aging society theme alone, ranging from wearables, right, to actually sensors around your home to help you live more independently. So those are the things. And I think the intelligent cloud is actually a very simple way for people to experiment. I know that people have said that, oh, well, sometimes you want to have the local edge. So I do believe that there will be scenarios where the actual recognition will be happening on the edge. But especially for the startups out there, it's very important to validate the scenario, just like the speaker today this morning from Stanford was saying, right? It's very important to validate the scenario with the user to understand whether the scenario works for the customer. And in that stage, actually using cloud is a very cheap way to actually get something up and running and so validate the user experience first. And after that, then you can actually decide on whether you can put some of that on the edge and some of that on the cloud. But I think especially for startups, they need to iterate very quickly. So leveraging the cloud that's provided by Microsoft or other vendors is actually a very quick way to actually explore and actually understand how the different scenarios can work. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So Yurong just shared with us lots of advanced technologies. So please elaborate shortly that what components are ready to use and what are not ready yet. Okay.
Go
ahead. Let's go. It's on.
Yeah.
So I think.
Yeah. It's on.
Yeah. So I think for the deep learning-based technology, currently, some technology are relatively mature, such as object classification. So it was widely used in the search engine and other, very widely used. So I think for this kind of technology, some, model compression is very, critical for this kind of technology because it can put the deep learning on the edge devices or mobile devices. So user will benefit from this kind of technology. Yeah.
Okay. So what are the technology we should avoid right now? Because it's not mature yet.
You mean the?
Yeah, the technologies.
Yeah, actually, for this kind of technology, it should be a software hardware co-design. If we just use the software, it cannot, get the very high performance for the low precision model compression. We need some, specific hardware accelerator to achieve, very high performance for this kind of, classification applications. So actually, I think for the some specific hardware design, ASIC design for such as actually for Intel we have Meridians. Meridians is a VPU, is a vision processing unit. Actually, it will provide some very low power vision processing capability for this kind of applications. And another way is is use FPGA to do some acceleration. Use FPGA to implement our low bit compression solutions on the edge or mobile devices, or not mobile, maybe embedded devices. Thus, we can benefit from this kind of technology. Yeah.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
So I think it's obvious that some mature technology are mature than others. If you look at some cloud company like IBM, Microsoft, the Googles, and you'll see there are some very ready to use API, and that's evidence that those kind of technology is mature enough for you to build applications. And especially if you look at speech recognition, image recognition, the accuracy is pretty high. So when you combine that into your application, then you will probably get a better result. But on the other hand, recently it's popular to build a chatbot. So building chatbot is easy because you can easily get an intent. But if you want to achieve an advanced level, so you want the chatbot to really understand the question, then there are a lot of work to do. So I think it's still in the research area that to try to understand what the question is and how to get the best result. So there are a lot of applications like Xiaobing. You see, there are a lot of research effort behind the scenes. So also in China, IBM Research Lab also have some demo system on that. But those systems, you see, those systems are not ready to provide some API for you to understand the semantics of every conversation. So, but that doesn't encourage you to start from there, because collecting question is very important when you build when you want to build next generation application. So my suggestion is to look at what this company have, and that doesn't mean you have to use those API, but it gives you a confidence that this API this technology are mature enough to start with. And the other thing, if you see there are some smart device like Amazon Echo, Google Home, those IoT combined with speech recognition, combined with intent classification, you see a lot of companies are releasing this kind of product. That also evidence that this related technology are mature enough to use. So you can combine your idea into that kind of technology to see if you can deliver some unique features.
Thank you. I think the key theme for this panel is we try to have the industry frames here. So the next question is, I believe many of you are trying hard to exploit the next opportunities for your business. So the question I have is, what industry verticals, such as healthcare, IoT, retail, transportation, and finance, etc., you think we have the best opportunity for AI to prevail? Okay, I hope you can share some real examples and to motivate our audience here. Let's start from Yurong first.
So generally, I think those segments with real use cases, high perception power, and high rewards for decision making quickly or more accurately will be, adopt AI fastest. So as Winston mentioned, so for the consumer markets, we can see a lot of applications, smart assistant, and chatbot, and other many applications. They're already there. So we can get some some benefits from this kind of applications. And for the health, I think health is also a very big market for the AI, because I think everybody, everyone is care about our health. So healthcare is, I think, there's a lot of opportunity to use AI technology to help we get make us much healthy. Yeah. So I think because I'm a researcher, I'm just focusing on the core technology research, not on the use cases. So I just think for the consumer, for the healthcare, for the finance also is a big opportunity there, because we can help them to make a decision quickly or much accurately. We can get some benefits from the AI technologies. So I think this is very promising.
Thank you. Jeffrey.
Well, I think most of the industry have the potential to leverage the AI to increase the efficiency. But if you want to, but some of them are easier than others, depending on the data available in that domain. So today we are using deep learning, mostly deep learning, to train a model. Then the challenge is not really the algorithm, because the algorithm is improving every day. And most of people making available as an open source framework. So the real challenge is, do you have high quality labeled data for training the model for a specific domain? So from this perspective, if you look at some domain that does really have some high quality data than others, and for example, education, financial, and healthcare, especially the financial domain, there's a lot of good knowledge there. And for example, so for customer support domain, they already collect a lot of Q&A. So this company, long time ago, they already collect this data. So when we try to build some intelligent system based on this Q&A, and it's relatively easy. And also for healthcare, like an example, I showed that the research team worked with the Tokyo University to identify a very uncommon disease in a very short time. So that's because the data already have some kind of label. So when you put some feature in, it's easy to build a model that can identify what is the root cause. So I think it depends on the quality of the data that could be used to train the model.
Okay. Thank you. Eric.
Sure. So there are a few big domains that where it's suitable for digital transformation. So we actually talk a lot about digital transformation today. So for example, we talk about manufacturing, right? So manufacturing definitely is a space that's actually transforming a lot of companies. For example, the elevator company that I talked about, they went from basically being an elevator manufacturer to actually to be a building mobility provider. They actually will service not only their own elevator, but also other companies' elevator. So that's one kind of digital transformation. In automobile, right? So you just read recently that Ford just changed their CEO because they know that they're changing from a car manufacturer to a mobility service provider. So we really need to invest in autonomous navigation. In financial service industry, in healthcare, the same thing, and also in retail. I'll give retail as an example, right? So retail, right now, if you look at the stock market, a lot of retail sector stocks are not doing too well in the US because people can buy things online. And in some sense, the e-commerce players actually know more about the customer than the retail store knows about the customer. But with all the AI that you have in the store, you can actually analyze whether someone is picking up like a bag and whether someone's expression is interested or not, right? And then basically the profile of this user, like age, range, and things like that, right? So you actually get a lot more detail about the customer interaction with the product compared to someone who's clicking behind the browser, right? So basically, all these sectors are basically transforming. They are actually trying to leverage all the information they have and then making sort of like a new services available to their customer. So I'll give an example. I gave an example about custom vision.ai. So I'll use that example. In manufacturing, now in China, it's easily at least 1 million workers working online, just using their eyes to assess the quality of the products being produced, right? But now, if you can actually capture that using the camera and then send it to the cloud, and then just train up a classifier that says, oh, this is good, this is not good, then you can basically suddenly automate a lot of that job away, right? And basically release the job to actually do something else. Same thing, right? In healthcare, I guess there was an example, if a doctor can actually look at some type of disease and then say, oh, this is actually grade A, this is grade B, this is grade C. And we've actually done that in our lab. We actually work with the Gates Foundation to actually do malaria detection and assessment to see basically from someone's blood, whether someone has malaria or not and how serious it is, right? So that's a case where human expertise is actually there's a great shortage, right? In the sense that in places like Africa, you cannot find enough experts in the villages to help you to label and identify malaria in blood cells. So you can actually use AI to help to do that. So there are a lot of opportunity both in healthcare, in finance, manufacturing, retail, and automobile. That's actually ripe for the use of AI. And I think there's actually lots of opportunity to look at the vertical applications and actually collect the right amount of data to actually deliver a service that will be suitable to help these companies transform themselves.
Okay, so it seems that there are so many choices, so many opportunities we can leverage. So just assume that if we choose one target we want to go work on, so for example, I want to start a new business in a big company. Okay, it's AI focused on certain domain. Okay, so could you give us some advice or some personal suggestions? What would be the first few steps you should work on to start your AI business. So we should start from Eric, right?
Okay, sure. So at Microsoft, when we evaluate a new product, we have 3 dimensions we look at, right? One is B, which stands for business. 2 is for X, which is user experience, and 3 is for T, for technology, right? So you need to assess basically your new company's potential in all those 3 dimensions. So I'll start with technology first, right? Technology is basically whether the product or service you want to offer can actually be done technically. So I'll give you an example, right? So I've been working on speech recognition since 1990s. So I've worked on speech for a long time. But today, if you say that I want to take a recording of this conversation and actually transcribe it 100% accurately, that's still fairly challenging, especially with the noise outside, right? So basically, if you want to offer a product or service that would basically transcribe all these meeting recordings, then you have to understand whether technology can actually achieve that or not. So first is technology. And 2 is user experience, right? So basically, whether the user is willing to adopt the service. So one example might be, so Facebook is a great example, right? Facebook, when it started, a lot of people had doubts on, will people actually share everything online? Basically, they go and eat like ramen, and then they actually take a picture of ramen and share it, right? So that kind of customer behavior is kind of hard to tell. So basically, you have to actually go and assess and use focus groups to understand whether that's something that people will adopt or not. Whether they have to pay for it or whether it's free, right? Facebook is mostly free, but still people need to adopt and say, I'm going to use Facebook to share all my connections with all my friends through Facebook, right? And the third is business, right? So business is basically assuming people want that service and technology can deliver that service, can you actually have a sound, sustainable business, right? How much are you going to charge? Or if you don't charge, you want to do advertisement, then how much are the advertisers willing to pay, right? Because venture capital money can actually last you only for so long. But eventually, you need to figure out the business case and then figure out whether it's something sustainable. Just like the speaker this morning, right? Saying about you really need to understand the margins that you have so that you can really scale very quickly. That's true both for consumer internet scenarios and also for technology scenarios when you actually, let's say if you want to develop a home robot, right? That's actually a very significant investment. So you have to figure out, are you willing to invest $50 to $100 million to actually create a home robot, right? So those are the 3 dimensions I would encourage you. It's actually, regardless whether it's a large company or a small company, you actually need to look at those 3 dimensions and try to understand the product and service along those 3 dimensions.
Okay. So Yurong, the first few steps, your personal opinion.
So I personally believe that AI is still in the early stage. So I think if you want to run your own business, you should understand the maturity of the AI technology, and especially for your target market, you should understand, what the customer really want, and what kind of service you can really provide based on the current AI technologies. I think maybe there's some, AI help here. But you need to, before you run your own business, you need to evaluate the AI technology to see if it can help you to really grow your business, to achieve the end users' expectation. I think this is very important to evaluate the AI technologies. Yeah.
Thank you. Jeffrey.
So I think for startup company or for enterprise company, it really depends on the business model you want to build around this technology. Because we have seen in, for example, World of Watson, we have seen a lot of company that they could leverage off the shell API they can take advantage of this AI technology into their business model, but they don't have to invest a lot of resource on AI. So if the key business model is more than your idea and how to leverage your existing data to create new value, then I think the first step would be to evaluate what is available today and then quickly build a prototype to verify whether the user experience is enough or whether the technology is mature enough to sustain the business model. And then on the other hand, if your business model is more like you want to provide a platform for AI, then that's a different story, because the things you have to consider is whether you have a sufficient computing platform and whether you want to build a library or a cloud platform for other developers to build. So it is a different category of business model. So depending on your business model, you will evaluate a different approach. Yeah, so that's my suggestion.
So thank you. So the next question will from Yurong first. So see, the panelists try to fail others. So the most questions, complaints I receive from the lots of industry firms, either in Asia or US, I think the CEO, president of the company, they always quite have huge anxiety, say, yes, I want to start my AI product. I want to start my AI company, but how could I build my AI team? The people. I think people is the most important for the AI. So how do I build my AI team? What would be your suggestions to build the AI team?
So I think it's challenging to attract the top AI talent. I think it's very challenging, even for the big company, because because every year the graduate for on the AI, the number of the students is very limited. So you have to to attract them with your vision, because for some talent they are very passionate on some new business or some new technology. They can really own the technology direction. Thus if they have more space to do more creative things by their own with their own wish list, then I think it will maybe you can attract some people to work with you to help you grow your business. So I think top thing is you use your vision and use your real the growth space to attract the top AI talents. Yeah, I think this is important.
Okay. Jeffrey, what's your opinion?
Oh, I think my opinion is the same as previous question. It depends on whether you really need to build an AI team for you, because sometimes you can build a very good business model without a dedicated AI team. You can leverage some of existing capability. But if you want to really build your business model on key AI technology, and as we know that if you want to hire a very experienced PhD student in this area to work on the project you have, it's sometimes hard, very challenging, because the big company have a lot of funding to hire this top talent. But on the other hand, if you look at the technology we have today, then you will see a lot of very complex problems. The algorithm, the framework is really available. So what is more important today to build your AI strategy is more about how to provide a very high quality of data. So from this perspective, all you need is a good engineer that have a good sense of how to clean the data, how to leverage this off-the-shelf AI framework and build your strategy. So it's not too much difference than what you build product in the past, but the key is the focus on the data and use your data to create unique value, because sometimes domain-specific knowledge is very hard to replicate. And that is the core value of building AI solution.
Eric.
Yeah, so I agree. Talent is always in shortage, regardless of where you are, right? Large companies, small company, they all have challenges in attracting talent. So I will argue, like when I was in Silicon Valley, right, there was a saying, right? It's not the large that eats the small, it's the fast that eats the slow, right? In the sense that you really need to be able to quickly learn about new trends and actually adopt new technology and also differentiate. So I agree that the AI-related talent is actually hard to get, but I think actually even greater shortage are people, like basically product owners or product managers that can understand what AI can do, like for a particular problem, right? I think that's even greater shortage, because that kind of vision of seeing how technology can be applied to solve a major problem, right? That I think is basically something that leaders need to train in their company, or actually to recruit in their company, because that's what's truly needed. Because I agree. Like differentiation is actually key, and then you cannot differentiate by sort of reproducing what someone else has done already, right? So if basically there are all these platforms on the cloud that can do machine recognition of like images and things like that, it really doesn't add any value for you to actually try to do your own, right? Example, speech recognition. So today we have speech recognition that covers many different languages on the cloud. Also, we actually have something called a custom speech.ai, which allows you to actually upload speech data so that you can actually do better recognition in challenging cases. So one example is we actually work with the McDonald's in the US. So that McDonald's, when they have a drive-through, they actually want to have speech recognition for the drive-through. So that's actually very challenging because most speech recognition today online is actually handling mobile phones, right? Basically, you speak commands into the mobile phone and try to recognize mobile phone. But on a drive-through, the engine's running, it's very loud. So you actually have to have like very robust speech recognition on that kind of data. So basically, we have a system on the cloud that can actually capture that data, adapt our recognition model to that. So basically, you don't really need to build a new team of speech recognition experts. You can basically just collect the right data and then send it to the cloud and then to customize the speech recognized in the cloud to your application, right? So it's actually a product owner that actually understands what the boundaries of the technology capabilities are and can actually envision how that technology can be used to solve a real customer problem. That's in the great shortage, especially I see worldwide, right? Because people sort of try to essentially catch trends, right? So they see Uber and say, oh, Uber is now getting a lot of valuation, so they try to reproduce Uber, right? I would say the real value is, imagine, you might have heard of Mobileye, which got acquired by Intel a few months ago, right? For $15 billion. So Mobileye was started by a computer vision, computer science professor in Israel, right? So you wouldn't think about Israel as being a country where it's like a computer vision powerhouse, or basically a country where essentially you have a great deal of like a automotive industry, right? But actually, basically a small team, fairly small team, actually creates this company called Mobileye that actually got so big enough that actually got acquired for $15 billion, right? So that means that it's basically the vision and the idea and the ability to execute that actually sort of separate basically the winner from the losers in this race, right? It's not really essentially, recruiting talent is certainly one key part of that, but it's more sort of the talent and the ability to see the need in the market and actually find the technology and the resource to actually address that need. I think that's even a bigger challenge.
You know.
I think I just answered the question.
Okay. So I think the next question should from Jeffrey. Okay. So the next question, I think the following the question for the peoples. Yes, we need AI teams, but what do you think? What will be the required criterion or conditions? I mean, how we evaluate? We have qualified AI engineers. We have qualified AI product managers, or even I want to recruit a new CEO. How do I know that he or she is AI savvy, right? So what would be the criterions to evaluate that? So Wishufra, are you?
Okay. I think evaluate AI engineer knows AI is a little bit different from evaluate a product manager because the skill is different. But from engineer perspective, for example, I was the I was patent review board of IBM CDL. So we see a lot of recent patent disclosures that most of these ideas are around using AI to solve new problems. So we have seen a new trend that people are getting familiar with how to use this new technology to solve new technology problems. So, so regarding to how to identify a good engineer, I think that one of the key is he need to get the basic sense of mathematics and the probability, and these are the very key for them to understand to catch the trend. So at least they have to understand what the new technology described in the paper, right? So that they can catch the new technology. And then how they can use their existing skill to apply with new framework like a TensorFlow and using that to build new application. That's important. But for product manager, it's a different story because it's very key for this product manager to see how to leverage the company's existing strengths, existing data, and then how to make value of that. They don't really have to go into the detail of the framework, but they need to know what is the secret source of their enterprise, and then how to use AI to make it more efficient, to create more value. So that's a little bit different from evaluating these two positions.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so I think it's actually very similar, right? In the sense that I believe AI, just like any previous technology, is created to solve real problems in society, right? So basically, you need to, so when you say you want to evaluate basically either engineers or product managers, you evaluate on that framework, right? In the sense that, are you creating solutions with the fastest speed at the minimal cost, essentially to help to solve that problem, right? So essentially, I think one key criteria I will look at would be essentially ability to learn very quickly of what's happening in the world, right? Essentially, 2 years ago, it might be Cafe. Now it might be TensorFlow or like CNTK. Basically these new paradigms, and then now it's Keras actually. That's even newer, right? So basically, ability to learn and absorb very quickly. So new skill sets and new trends. Just like earlier this morning, Holly was mentioning that. So like you need to sort of look up and see what's happening in the world, right? How are you differentiating? How are you different from the world? And there's a question that our CEO, Satya, constantly challenges us. So it actually applies to Microsoft, but it also applies to any startup or any business, right? Is that, what justifies your existence in the world, right? If Microsoft were to disappear tomorrow, what's the impact to the world? What's the impact to society, right? You might think that's so hard to imagine that Microsoft was like over $100 billion in revenue, right? But it's true for large company and for small company, right? If a company were to disappear, does it have any impact at all? Is there anyone missing you, right? So you really have to think along those lines, right? And then basically, not only the leaders, but also every member of the team that's working on this kind of new product needs to really think along those lines and say, what are we doing that's actually adding a differentiated value to the world? If you were to disappear, who will miss us, right? If you find out, well, really, no one will miss us, then you really need to rethink about your position, right? So I think that's the key, essentially that mindset of essentially constantly learning and constantly growing and actually trying to see where we can add more value to the world by either technology or by sort of combining technology to a new service. I think that's really the key.
Thank you. Yurong, how to evaluate?
So I think for the CEO, I think his vision is very important. He should know, he should know how to do the right thing at the right time. And for the, product manager, they should do how to do the right thing. And for the engineers, they should know how to do the right thing right. So this is the difference of the CEO or product manager and engineer. But I think for the country, I think we, still need a lot of product manager because, there's some AI technology already there. But how to use this kind of AI technology to, produce some, very good product? I think this is very important. I think Echo or iPhone, just a good example. We already have a lot of technology there, but how to integrate them together to help the user to get a much better experience? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Just emphasize again. So the panel is trying to help the industry here. So they are very experienced, seasoned AI researchers. So indeed, they did share lots of insights. The next question will move to data, right? We know that even though these deep learning or AI research right now is data-driven. So if you have quality data, you would have some supermodels. But the problem is, especially for the industry, how you get the data? And how we deal with the problem that you only have very limited data. So let's think about discuss how we deal with that for the data aspect. Eric, you are the next, right?
Okay. Yes. So definitely data. I mean, one analogy people have said that data is the new oil in this industry, right? In the sense that you need to know where the data deposits are, and that's how you get revenue or profit, right? So I do believe that first of all. You need to have the awareness of the power of data, right? So in some US companies, they actually have like chief data officer now. So instead of chief information officer, they have a new job category like chief data officer. And I think pretty soon this chief data officer might change the title to chief AI officer. In fact, there are some companies that actually are hiring people that's called chief AI officer because they are very, very closely related. So I think, first of all, data, depends on the task. Some are like barriers to entry that you can use to build a moat that's constantly changing. So I'll use an example in the financial industry, right? So financial industry, Bloomberg has actually made like billions of dollars because they've actually managed to consolidate and sort of process all data. So any sort of financial professional needs to have access to a Bloomberg terminal to actually basically kind of condense information and then be able to trade based on that, right? And financial industry, that's actually constantly changing. So you need this kind of new data all the time. You cannot use the data that's even 1 month old. It needs to be data now, right? But there are other sort of like domains, for example, in speech recognition, where eventually you will saturate. If you get enough data, then basically you'll train up to 99% accurate, and then basically getting more data is not going to improve a lot more on the accuracy, right? So in those cases, investing to collect a lot of data in that domain doesn't give you a long sustained advantage because other people can have the same data, and then they can train up a system as well as you can. So there's no sustainable advantage by gaining that data. So I think what the chief data officer needs to assess is basically what are the type of data that will actually give me long-term sustainable advantage? What are the type of data that sort of like short-term I need to ramp up my services? But in the long term, it's pretty hard to actually make that edge, right? So I use LinkedIn or Facebook as an example, right? So LinkedIn and Facebook, these are social graphs. So LinkedIn is for the professional. Facebook is for the personal, right? So these are data that once you are onto this social network, it's actually very, very hard for people to move, right? If all your job and all your contacts are on LinkedIn, it's very hard to move away to some other network. Same thing with Facebook, right? If all your friends and family and classmates are on Facebook, it's pretty hard to move away. So that kind of data is super valuable because it's very hard to reproduce, right? Whereas like things like image recognition or things like that, those are actually, I mean, it takes time and takes investment to process, to clean, but you know, a cat is a cat. Doesn't matter whether you take a picture of a cat or I take a picture of a cat. It's still a cat, right? So that is not a long-term sustainable advantage. So I think when people start collecting data, one should really be careful about the type of data that one's trying to capture and collect, and where that's adding the most value. Yeah.
Data really quite important. So the impact of data, Yurong, your personal view.
So I think data is very important for deep learning, especially for deep learning. And I do think that several years ago, in 2013, we began the research on deep learning. At that time, we just used some public data sets from ImageNet or MSQL or other data sets. So at that time, we think because if you will do some deep learning-based solution, you need to use a lot of data for training. But we think we don't have other way to collect more data because we don't have search engine. Search engine can get a lot of data, right? So we think if we just have some public data, how we can based on the public data to get to do some more advanced research. This is why we moved our research focus from the general object video recognition research to specific video recognition research, which means we just focus on some specific task. And we can, in a small, specific task, we can do the best. We design the efficient network design to get the best accuracy for this task. And then we will move to efficient network design, which means, well, we don't care about the data. We have a pre-trained model, but we just to design a training procedure to help to compress the model, to put to achieve tens or hundreds of times compression for the same models. I think you can still do a lot of things, even without ways to collect the data or But for the business, I think it's important. If you think about in your business, if you have a way to collect the data to continue to improve your solution, I think this will be valuable. In the long run, you will have more and more data, and your solution will be more and more robust. So I think it's very important for the business. But for research, I don't think, even have small data, we can still do a lot of things.
Okay. Jeffrey, data. Especially, I want to know how IBM deal with the medical data.
Yeah, so I will probably cover more from a language perspective because there are more high-quality labeled data for image today. But for language, it's relatively small. But we have seen a lot of companies start building AI starting from customer support because that's the area that AI can help a lot because mostly are very common question and answer. So to build a solution like that, sometimes it's challenging to start with because I don't know what kind of existing knowledge could be exposed to our front-end customer. So typically, our suggestion for customer will be to look at what information you have today, either PDF or PowerPoint, and can we identify a very small set of them, and then using some tools or either manually to label this data, and then to create a first batch of small set, and then identify a very small scope of area and build a model around those data and then see if that works. If that is, if the result is satisfied for everyone, then we will see, okay, this is a model we want to build. Then can we create a strategy that we can acquire more data and then either basically processing our existing unstructured data, or from more customer questions, can we automatically create some labeled data? So I think the key for the AI architect is more about how can I create a strategy to collect data, either from existing data or from an online system. Can we have the system adaptive to the environment? When more people ask a question, the system will get it more accurate day after day. So starting from this kind of iteration approach, then we can increase our business scope. So for example, in the past, maybe we only allow user to ask a certain domain of question. Then we see this is working and our data collecting strategy is working as well. Then we increase our business domain to provide more Q&A for other questions. So this is how we suggest customer and how we start a new project that leveraging AI.
So we talk about the humans, AI experts, and then data. You need to use this data to train your model. The more data you have, the more powerful your deep learning or AI model. But the computations. So I share a very short story because our lab are lucky to be officially sponsored by NVIDIA as the NVIDIA AI lab, the first AI lab in Asia. So we have very powerful DGX-1 supercomputers. We really saw the huge speed up when training deep learning. So you have data. You need also have very powerful motions, at least right now. So the question I want to ask is, how the companies here, they want to start AI research, they got very high quality data, but how they deal with the computing resource problems? It would be cheaper, or how to get the cheapest computing resource? And let's see if we can get some advice to the friends here, Yurong.
So I think for the, maybe you can, from the cloud service, maybe we can use the computing power in the cloud. We can help us to do some training. But I think the most important thing is how to keep our data secure. Because you don't want to share the data for others, right? You need to make sure if we upload the data on the cloud, so others cannot to access my data. So I think this is important for the cloud service provider to figure out how to deal with this kind of problem. They can provide the computer power to help you training the model, but they still need to provide a solution to keep your data secure. Yeah, I think this is very important.
So next, computing resource problems. So how we can give the advice to the friends here, how to deal with computing resource?
I think it's a really challenging problem because for big companies, it's easier because there's a shared pool of resource that you can build model very quickly with a lot of data. But for small startup company, we have seen a lot of startup company, they want to build solution around AI, but most of their funding are spending on buying some cloud resource in order to train their model. So I think it's challenging because it's unlikely you will invest a lot in hardware in the very beginning of the startup in order to build some model. So I think my suggestion will be to narrow down the scope a little bit to identify a model that could be could build an MVP for your project, and then start from there to see if this is the real working model. If you can get more funding, then we will increase the scope, and then we purchase more resource to build a more accurate model. And then depending on whether you really want to invest in this, you might want to purchase on-premise resource in order to train your model. Or if this is something that could be leveraged some cloud resource to train, or even I can use some off-the-shelf API, so I don't need to build the infrastructure myself. I think there are also some opportunity there are some startup companies that provide this kind of computing resource as a service. So that's another area to look at, because it really depends on your business model. Is like leveraging AI, or you want to build everything from scratch. So I think it's a tough question, but how to invest your limited resource at the very beginning is also very important.
Yeah, so I think definitely computation resource is very, very important. And then I think, rather than look at costs alone, I think one should look at the value of time and should treat it as an even higher cost, right? So basically the benefit of the cloud is that you can scale up very, very quickly, right? Any small company, as long as they have the budget, they can actually scale up to using 100,000 GPU servers to actually do their training. Whereas you're lucky that you actually got donated machine from NVIDIA, but nowadays it's actually very hard to buy NVIDIA servers because they are all in short supply. So small companies actually wait maybe months to buy a server, right? So essentially, a small company cannot afford to wait like that, or even a big company, in fact. So using the cloud is the best solution, essentially, to help to move quite fast. And moving fast, I agree with what Jeffrey said, in the sense that, first of all, you have to decide whether you actually need to train using your own data in the first place, right? Because, for example, the thing I showed about customvision.ai, you can actually just use a few minutes on the cloud, and you can already train up an image classifier, utilizing the sort of data that has already been used to train up a classifier by Microsoft, right? So instead of like hours, you actually take minutes to decide whether you need to train up this image classifier yourself or not, right? So actually being smart in deciding how you utilize the computation resources, and then also being sort of agile in actually being using the computation resources in the cloud so they can scale up and down very, very quickly. I mean, those are the things I think that are key for either a small company or like a big company, right? Because using Microsoft's own example, for us to go through the IT department to buy a server is easily also a few months to actually between the purchase order and actually having the device up and running in the data center, right? But if you use the cloud, then you can actually just do it in an hour or less, and then basically you have the server actually running your jobs already. So I think in the long run, any company should actually have the ability to use the cloud, to leverage the cloud. Just like many startups in the US, right? Ranging from Netflix to Dropbox to Box.com, all these companies, or Facebook, they all started leveraging the cloud in order for them to scale so quickly.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is from Jeffrey. So the next question also I heard a lot from the industry partners, especially those partners from Taiwan, because we are the basis which lots of manufacturers, so lots of friends, they're working on smart watch, smart embedded systems, or even storage, or lots of appliances, etc. They're asking about, yes, the new are powerful, but every model requires 250 megabytes or even 1 gigabyte of model parameters. It's infeasible to deploy that in the watch or in the very small device. So I want to hear this, the opinion from the expert here. What is the status? What kind of hardware will be the best for embedded device? I want a smart camera. Okay, what will be and then we AI enabled, deep learning enabled. What kind of technologies, solutions will be best for this embedded system? And the other question is it ready now or not yet? Okay, Jeffrey.
depending on the application, for example, if you are trying to run very simple model, you are not processing a lot of image, but you want to collect some sensor data and then make some classification of that, I think the most of the cell phone today were power enough to do these kind of things. And I think some new framework like, for example, Facebook have a Cafe to Go, and this kind of platform is a specific design to running on a mobile device. So how your existing model can leverage this kind of new framework is very important. And for example, if your edge device is more like a autonomous car, then it's a different story because your computing power could be more powerful. So you can leverage more high-end development board like a TS1, TS2, things like that to build your advanced model. So I think currently the most common things are still running on this kind of model on your mobile device. So instead of choosing the hardware, I would suggest looking from software perspective, how we can reduce the size of the model. And if you want to build a very large model and push that from the cloud to the edge, it's going to be very difficult. And whether we can improve the software infrastructure, instead of pushing the whole model to the edge, can we incrementally provide this model to the edge at the right time? So that would be a more reasonable approach than providing a very powerful edge computing. So this is something we can solve in the software part. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, I think this is very nice suggestion. So what's the platform in the edge? So Eric.
Okay, so I think it really depends on the application scenario. So there's no one true answer, right? So I'll give you an example, right? So this is a HoloLens, right? So I show, for example, like basically this German company using HoloLens to do elevator, to help to fix elevator. So when you're fixing elevator, then you can still have like 4G network, so you can access the cloud, and then you can have like Skype session and get people to help, right? But this has actually gone up to the space station as well. In space station, there's a lot of equipment that needs to be repaired as well. But it's actually very expensive to ship up like heavy manuals, right? To allow people to fix. So basically on the space station, then basically it makes more sense to actually have everything on the device itself, so that you don't need to rely on an unreliable network to the ground station, right? In order to use this as a way to fix the device. So it really depends on the scenario. So another example in the healthcare domain. So there's a company in Israel that makes these smart pills, or these pills, right? That basically is a camera that you swallow. And then basically after a few hours, as you go through your whole digestive tract, right? And taking images of your whole stomach and like intestine, right? And then provide that to a doctor so that they can assess whether you have like either like ulcers or anything like that. So because it's such a small pill, it doesn't really make sense to do any processing on the pill. It basically requires just capturing, right? And then after that, you actually do the processing offline, either in the cloud or on a server, right? So I think there's no one like true answer for whether it should be on the edge or on the cloud. It really depends on the application scenario, what's the real problem that you're trying to solve.
Yes. Yurong, what's the variation for the
basically,
edge?
I think it's is a software and hardware co-design problem, because you want to put the deep learning on the edge. So you have to from the software side, you need to basically we have two ways to improve deep learning efficiency. One is efficient network design for some specific task. We can design very efficient network for some specific task with very small model size and with very small memory footprint for the specific task. And another way is, for our work, for the low deep compression work, which is, we can compress the deep learning models with, from hundreds of megabytes to several megabytes, even less than 1 megabyte. So this is examples you can do from the software side. And for the hardware side, you need to, need to design some, ASIC to accelerate some, some modules, some, hotspots for the deep learning processing, for example, just like the TPU, it's a kind of, a tensor processing unit to accelerate the, actually it's matrix, multiplications and add operations. but it's very fundamental operations for the deep neural networks. So I think for this, I think it's basically you need to do the software hardware code design based on your real usages, your applications. I think it's still this a way for you to put the video recognition, such kind of applications in the edge side. Yeah.
So we have 9 minutes 30 seconds remaining. So as promised, I would have collect some questions from the audience. Anyone want to have questions? Yes, please.
Hi, I'm a software engineer, and my question is 2 parts. One, the first part is, what is the biggest misconception from industry professionals about the deep learning or AI? And the second question is, what can we do to help educate these people for them to be able to take the risk or for them to be able to be willing to work with AI professionals?
Could you repeat the first question again?
Yeah, so the first question is, what is the biggest misconception from industry professionals about AI and deep learning?
Okay.
And the second question is, what can we do to help educate these people who might be willing to invest but want to make an informed decision?
Okay, good question. So, Eric, for you?
Sure. So the first misconception about AI, I think, is that AI is something that's only very large companies like Microsoft or like Google or Amazon can actually afford to use or to invest in. As I said, AI is actually going to be pervasive across all industries. So I think this doesn't depend whether you're a small company or a big company. You really have to understand how AI, just like internet. Like internet 20 years ago in the Silicon Valley, right? At that time, some people feel, well, internet is just going to be bookstores and things like that, right? So it doesn't affect me. But now I think people realize that internet affects every sphere of our commerce or our economy, right? So AI is going to be like that in the sense that if you do not understand its potential impact to your industry, then basically it will be a problem for you down the line because you will be disrupted for sure, right? So essentially, any small or big company need to think about how their services can be upgraded, can be improved using AI, because and then basically it's not that hard. It's not like only large companies can afford to have a team looking at AI. I think any company can actually look at AI today, right? I mean, I'll give you an example. So there was actually this young college student in Japan that actually was using AI to help his parents who are farmers to sort through like apples that are high grade versus like low grade apples. So basically he was like trying to basically use deep learning, right, to actually train up a classifier to train up good apples versus bad apples, right? And he was basically a computer science student, and he could do that using like all the toolkit. But now it's even easier than that. You can just upload images on the web, and then basically you'll train up a classifier to separate these good apples versus bad apples, right? So I think one thing is that if you believe you have no way to play in the game, then of course you won't try. And I guess my message today, if nothing at all, is basically AI is for everyone. You basically, even a college student or even a high school student can actually learn so much about how AI can be used to help solve one of the world's problems, and then can actually go online and try a lot of different services and actually create new services. So that's what we're excited about. It's basically AI will become pervasive. I'll give an example in the sense that I mentioned about the chatbot technology. So just last week, we actually had a contest working with the Taipei government to build chatbots using the Taipei government's data so that you can actually use chatbots to improve customer service using Taipei government's data, right? So basically, these are like college students, like actually 3 or 4 to a team. So just use these chatbot technologies to create these new services that make our lives better, right? So I think that's the main misconception I have that I think that people need to realize is that AI is for everyone, and everyone has a way to actually access the technology to make our life better. Yeah, thanks.
Yurong.
So I think AI is more than deep learning, not just deep learning. Yes. So this is some misunderstanding here, and machine learning and deep learning are underlying approaches to AI. As our reasoning systems is also very important for the AI. So I think there's some misunderstanding. So we should educate others. AI is not just deep learning. So this is we should do that.
Okay, so from my experience, the most big misconception about AI is around they are thinking this is a machine that really thinks, that can make sense of a lot of things. So it's like magic. So you give a lot of data and you want to get an answer. But in fact, it's a set of mathematical approach to processing the data in a very efficient way, in an abstract level, and to reduce the effort required to define the policy. So this is the first misconception I have seen in a lot of customers. They want to introduce the AI, but they believe that everything you just put into there and then you can get an answer. And especially for building a chatbot, they think that when you build a chatbot with the AI, they can answer all the questions you have in your enterprise. But more importantly is how you clean your enterprise unstructured data. And the next question is what kind of model you want to build. Because today, more mature technology is supervised learning. So you have a lot of data, and with proper label, can you build a class to identify different class? So when you have this technology, how your enterprise can benefit from that. So to tell this boss what is doable and how it was working is very important from our perspective to set an expectation. What can be done with AI, what cannot be done with AI. So this is the first one. And the second one is about, can I use AI for everything? Not necessary. Sometimes if you want to do very simple things, then maybe a policy-driven approach will be more efficient than building a very complex neural network in order to do classification. So this is another issue we have seen. So understand the strengths of different AI model and what problem could be solved with what kind of network technology, and whether to use AI or not is more important from our perspective.
Perfect. I think lots of insights here. So I think we have 2 minutes. We have less questions here.
Thanks. I'm an engineering for the industrial. Like Dr. Chen, Dr. Chang, you said in a lot of industry application, we know the error tolerance is very smaller. It's smaller than entertainment applications. Especially we want to apply AI in industrial applications. So how could we apply AI with a smaller or acceptable error tolerance, especially when our product is various and change fast. When the parameter is changed, maybe the model should be changed again and again, every day or every hours. So how could we apply AI to this kind of industrial application?
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the question is how to apply AI in industrial settings, especially in manufacturing. So I think it's very important to qualify, how precise you need the AI to perform, right? In the sense that if you want to one error in 1 million incidents, right? That's very hard. But that's also very hard for human. I don't think there's any human that can actually do that kind of error rate, right? Basically at 1 in a million, right? So basically, there will be sort of cases where AI is not good enough yet. So you need to find the use cases where the AI is sufficient, or to provide sort of a safety net, right? In the sense that you have AI do the first pass, and then you have a human to actually do the second pass to make sure that both sides agree, right? Just like the space shuttle. Space shuttle actually have 3 independent software systems calculating the trajectory, and they have to agree before the space shuttle will land, right? Because otherwise, if there's any bug, hopefully these 3 are independent. They won't happen to have the same bug at the same time, right? The same thing with the AI, in the sense that the AI, you actually need to have a design, a safety net, essentially, to make sure that there are ways to cover for the mistakes that AI will have. Because just like human beings will also have mistakes as well, you just need to cover for that.
So anyone want to give some comments?
Yeah, I think I basically agree with that. When your model is not stable enough, and you probably have to incorporate a lot of human intelligence, That's what the main thing we always talking about. The AI is basically to augment human intelligence. So before we can find a very reliable approach and to either collect data or train a model, I think at the very beginning, you have to babysit this model and see how it works, whether this is really can provide the result you want or not. If this is not what you want, maybe you need something, not the AI approach. Like I said, maybe policy-driven approach will be work better in this small amount of data. When you go to the next level and you can find some patterns of this data, then you build your new model for that. That would be more a realistic approach.
Okay, thank you. I think we have lots of things to discuss, especially we have very special, very excellent panelists here, and they are really grateful for them for sharing lots of insight. They thanks again for this very nice opinion. Thank you. So, very quick conclusion. So I think today for the panel, we are trying to help the industry friend here that yes, it's the AI age is now, and how we can proceed, how we can embrace the power of AIs. And we also discussed some strategies, how you can evaluate that, what kind of component you can use for your AI products, and how you can build up your AI team, what's the criterion for those AI people, how you deal with the data, how the model computation issues, etc., and try to clean some misconceptions regarding the AI's mysteries. And I think all the speakers here and panelists here agree that yes, this is the AI age, and I think AI is for everyone. It's our pleasure to be here to join the panel. We also wish you, everybody here, the best for the AI age. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, our panelists.